Okay, so we have a few more key features of a quadratic function. So it's the same problem that we just did, where we talked about the y-intercept, the max and the min, and the vertex. Now, I did a quick sketch. It's not perfect. Obviously, you can see I missed some points here. But we found that the vertex was 4, 3, and we found that, or 4 over 3, not comma, sorry. 4 over 3, and we found that by taking the opposite of b over 2a. Now, that was just the x value, though. We then had to plug it into our original function to find the y value. Now, you could have done this in your calculator. There's a function, if you go second calc, it's option number 2, I believe, and that is to find your max, no, that's to find 0. But you should see an option to find your maximum or minimum. Now, how do you know if it's a max or a min? Well, because this is a graph that opens down, our vertex is a maximum. So if you find the maximum, it'll tell you in decimal form what that is. So in this case, you get 1.3 repeated and 21.3 repeated. And so this is what that vertex would look like. The y-intercept is the number by itself, so where it crosses the y-axis. And the other thing, or that was it, those 3 things. Now, the other things we're going to find now is the axis of symmetry. Well, that's the easy one, because your axis of symmetry is the equation x equals whatever your x value of your vertex was. So our x value was 4 over 3. So x equals 4 over 3. Meaning it is the line that goes through the x-axis at 4 over 3. Meaning, if I were to draw this dotted line here, it would fold over that dotted line, and the right side would land on the left side. They would be symmetrical on that dotted line. And it is always just going to be whatever your x value of your vertex is. So that's called the axis of symmetry, the line which we could fold over for the right side to land on the left. Now, increasing, decreasing. Don't make it harder than it is. Increasing means we're going up. Decreasing means we're going down. So we read from left to right, right? When I read a book, I read from left to right. So let's look at the leftmost part of the graph. The leftmost part of the graph, we would say, is negative infinity, right? And so from negative infinity on my x-axis all the way to where this changes direction, which is 4 over 3, I keep saying comma, all the way to 4/3, what is this graph doing as I go from left to right? Well, it's increasing. So from negative infinity all the way to 4/3, my graph is increasing. So under increasing, I'm going to say from negative infinity all the way to 4/3. We are increasing. Then we have this change of direction at 4/3. We hit our maximum point at 4/3, and now I change direction from 4/3 all the way to positive infinity. As x gets larger and larger, what are we doing? We're going down, meaning we're decreasing. So we're decreasing for all of our x values greater than 4/3, or from everywhere from 4/3 to positive infinity. Now, if you wanted to say x, it's increasing for all the x values less than 4/3, and it's increasing or decreasing for all the x values greater than 4/3, you could. But let's just start from left to right. So from negative infinity all the way up to 4/3, we are increasing. This graph is going up. Then it changes directions, and we're decreasing from this point all the way to my x value forever to positive infinity. Now, x-intercepts. This one you want to use in your calculator. So this is where we're crossing the x-axis. And what people need to realize is like the difference between left and right. So in your calculator, if you would hit second calc, so first go to y equals, plug your original function in, into y equals, and hit graph. And we're looking, where is this graph crossing the x-axis? Well, this one's a little bit easier to see, right? This is crossing at the number 4. So meaning we have an x-intercept at 4. Cool, well that's one of them. Well, we have this other one, that's a fraction. So we have to figure out what that fraction is. And so if you hit second calc, option number 2 is 0. So x-intercept or 0 or whatever, those all mean the same thing. Your solutions, your real roots, your zeros, they all mean the same thing, x-intercept. So second calc, option number 2 should be 0, and it's going to ask left bound or right bound. So the very first step is say, hey, what is the left bound? So you're going to have to hit your left or right arrow. So LB is standing for left bound. Your left bound is, in this case, anywhere underneath this x-axis. So you want to move your cursor and it's like this little blinking cursor. You want to move that by hitting the left or right arrow on your calculator until you see the blinking cursor just underneath the x-axis. It doesn't matter where. It could be way down here, it could be right here, but it should start here. Just kind of move it left, left, left until it's just underneath that x-axis. And then you're going to hit enter. Well, now it's going to ask you, hey, give me the right bound. Give me any point that's on the right side of this 0. And so that's any point that's over here on the right side. So now you're going to hit the right arrow, and you're going to hit the right arrow until this blinking cursor moves up until it's somewhere above the x-axis. And so once you get that above the x-axis, you're going to hit enter. Your calculator always says guess. I don't know why it says guess. If you want to guess, you wouldn't need it. So hit enter one more time, and it'll give you, hey, when y value is 0, x is going to be, in this case, negative 4/3, or negative 1.3 repeated. And you can just write negative 1.3 repeated. I know what you mean. So that's negative 4/3. And because we're using your calculator, you can use decimals. Just go to 2 decimal places, so negative 1.33. And so in your calculator, you're going to go to second calc to find the 0. So that's option number 2, find the 0. It's going to say left bound. We need to go on the left side of this coordinate point. And so we're moving our cursor underneath the x-axis. We're going to hit enter. Then it'll tell us, hey, I need a point on the right side of this. And so right bound, so I'm going to hit the right arrow on my calculator to get above that x-axis and hit enter. It'll ask you to guess, just ignore that. Hit enter one more time, and it'll tell you the answer when y is 0, or where this crosses the x-axis. It's going to be at negative 1.3 repeated. Just do 2 decimal places, so 1.33.